Hi, this is Les and Amy from the RevGenetics podcast. You can listen to the podcast on YouTube and now on Spotify, where we do a deep dive on supplements and longevity studies. Today we're looking at this really wild discovery about how a natural compound called spermidine acts like a superpower shield, helping soybeans survive in totally toxic soil.
Yeah, it's a fascinating study because we're looking at biology pushed to the absolute brink.
Yeah.
You know, and the coolest part is that the exact same defense trick these plants use is actually deeply tied to how human cells fight off aging.
Right. So, okay, to set this up, imagine you are just desperately thirsty, right? And someone hands you this tall, ice-cold glass of water, but it is completely packed with baking soda.
Oh, wow, yeah, that would be awful.
Right. If you drink it, your cells instantly start dehydrating. It just does massive damage to your system. And the crazy thing is, right now, over 1 billion hectares of global farmland are doing exactly that to our crops.
Yeah, it's a huge problem.
And scientists call it bicarbonate stress, which is really just a fancy way of saying the soil is highly alkaline. It's basically a toxic trap for seeds.
Exactly. I mean, when a farmer plants a seed, its very first job is to absorb water so it can sprout or germinate. But in this highly alkaline soil, the chemistry's totally flipped. The toxic salts in the dirt actually pull moisture away from the seed.
Wow, so it's actively dehydrating it.
Yes. So not only is it starved of water, but these toxic ions just flood into the delicate tissues before it can even, push a green shoot up. It's basically a death sentence.
Which brings us to the hero of the study, right? Spermidine. Because the researchers took soybean seeds and intentionally soaked them in this incredibly harsh baking soda-like solution.
Right. But for a specific group of those seeds, they gave them a dose of spermidine first.
And the visual difference was like night and day.
Oh, totally jarring. The unprotected seeds just sitting in that alkaline water, they completely failed. They shriveled up, couldn't take in nutrients, nothing. But the seeds pre-treated with the spermidine, they sprouted like they were sitting in premium potting soil. I mean, they grew thick, beautiful roots, gained healthy weight, and basically just ignored the toxic sludge around them.
Okay, wait, but a shield isn't just magic. Something physical has to be blocking the salt. So what is the spermidine actually doing inside the plant? Because my first thought was, oh, it's an antioxidant, like throwing vitamin C at the problem.
Yeah, that's what you'd naturally assume. But it's actually not an antioxidant itself. It's a signaling molecule.
A signaling molecule. Okay, what does that mean?
Think of it like a biological manager walking into a dormant factory and flipping the power switches. To understand it, we kind of have to look at how the soil kills the plant in the first place. Have you ever seen an old car out by the ocean where the salt and rain just eat away at the metal?
Oh, yeah. The rust just completely degrades the frame.
Exactly. That rusting process is what scientists call oxidative stress. The plant gets stressed by the soil and starts making these harmful things called ROS reactive oxygen species.
Which are basically just like rogue oxygen particles, right?
Right. Hyperactive particles that bounce around and literally tear holes in the plant's cell walls.
Leaving behind a bunch of wreckage.
Precisely. They measure this chemical called MDA, which is essentially the cellular debris left over from the damage. The more MDA, the more your cells are rusting from the inside out.
Okay, so where does the spermidine come in?
Well, when they added the spermidine, those stress markers just plummeted. The rogue oxygen dropped, the debris cleared out. It essentially stopped the rust.
But wait, if it's not an antioxidant, how does it stop the rust? What switch is this manager flipping?
So it goes into the plant's DNA and turns on two defense pathways, the phenylpropanoid and flavonoid pathways.
Okay, those are some big words.
Yeah, but for anyone without a biology degree, just picture them as the plant's natural armor factories. Once the spermidine turns them on, the seed starts pumping out massive amounts of protective compounds.
Like actual physical barriers.
Yes, including a protein called lignin. It acts like thick mortar in a brick wall, physically blocking the toxic salt from getting into the roots.
Wait, I want to stick on this for a second because how does a chemical actually turn on a factory in the DNA?
It's all about epigenetics. So imagine the plant's DNA is this incredibly long instruction manual, but it's wrapped super tightly around a spool.
Okay.
If it's too tight, the cell can't read the pages. Spermidine acts like a key that slightly unwinds the DNA, exposing the exact pages that say, hey, build the armor now.
And the researchers actually found the specific pages, didn't they? Those two genes, JAMPAL 1.1 and GMCCR1?
Yes, those genes are the literal blueprints for the shield. And the way they proved it is just so elegant. They didn't just guess. They tested mutant soybeans that were genetically altered to lack those two specific instruction manuals.
So the blueprints were completely gone.
Completely. And when they put those mutant seeds in the toxic soil, even with a massive dose of spermidine, they failed. They shriveled and died.
Wow. So without those genes, the manager walks into the factory, but there's no blueprint to read.
Exactly. It proved the spermidine needs those exact genes to activate the defense.
It just highlights how perfectly precise biology is, you know? A single microscopic molecule unlocking this massive defense system inside a tiny seed. And, you know, that seamless jump from looking at how a plant cell defends itself to how human cells operate is right up our alley. Today's Look into Plant Science is made possible by RevGenetics. Big thanks to them for helping us break down this fascinating study.
RevGenetics is dedicated to providing evidence-based natural compounds, including spermidine for aging research and cellular health.
It is so cool to see how the exact same natural molecules that protect crops at a microscopic level are being actively studied for human longevity. So let's pivot a bit. What does this mean for you and me in the real world?
Well, it's huge for the future of food.
Right, because with climate change, farmable land is shrinking. But we can't just go out and spray millions of acres with liquid spermidine, can we? That sounds like a financial nightmare.
Oh, it absolutely would be. Spraying external chemicals as a Band-Aid just isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
But because these scientists dug down to those exact genetic blueprints, the GM-PAL 1.1 and GM-CCR1 genes, we have a better tool now.
Oh.
Yeah, they started looking at the DNA of wild soybeans, these really rugged, tough plants that naturally survive in terrible, salty, desert-like conditions.
Let me guess, those wild plants already have the defense pathways turned on.
Even better, they carry elite haplotypes of those exact genes, basically the premium top-tier versions of the instruction manuals.
Okay, wow.
So now, agricultural experts don't have to guess. They can use traditional breeding to cross these tough wild plants with our high-yielding domestic crops.
So they're basically breeding super beans,
Yeah.
crops that naturally have this ultimate spermidine shield built into their DNA from day one.
Precisely. They'll be totally ready to grow in harsh, salty soil without any extra chemical sprays. It's a massive leap for global food security.
Okay, I love the optimism. And the science is definitely there for the sprouting phase. But let me stop you and play devil's advocate for a second. Sure.
This study only looked at seeds sprouting over a few days in a lab, right? A farmer doesn't make a living off 3-day-old sprouts. They need a mature plant with a massive crop of beans months later. Did these super shielded seeds actually grow up to produce anything?
That is the perfect question to ask. And honestly, it is the primary limitation of this specific study. Germinating, just surviving the dirt is only step one.
Right.
The researchers proved spermidine gets the seed out of the ground safely. But you're absolutely right. Follow-up research desperately needs to track the full life cycle.
Yeah, we have to see if they maintain that shield for 3 or 4 months.
Exactly. Because if a survivor plant uses all its energy just fighting the soil and doesn't produce food, well, it isn't useful for agriculture.
Right. No beans, no farm. But still, even with that limitation, what really stands out to me isn't just the farming stuff. It's the profound connection between plant biology and human biology.
Oh, completely.
The real aha moment for me is that a plant cell and a human cell are basically fighting the exact same war. It is remarkable. When you strip away the leaves and roots, the microscopic battle against oxidative stress is universal. Whether it's a soybean in alkaline dirt or your own cells dealing with bad diet and environmental toxins, the mechanism of aging is the same. It's all cellular rust.
And nature has these shared tools to protect the machinery. A natural molecule helping a tiny seed fight off rust perfectly mirrors how researchers view human cellular health.
Absolutely. The pathways might have different names in humans, but using molecules to signal your DNA to unspool and build better armor. That is at the absolute forefront of longevity science.
It's incredible to think about.
It really is. So as you go about your week, maybe think about that theoretical glass of baking soda water. Consider what kind of cellular rust you might be exposing yourself to every day. And, more importantly, what natural shields are you using to protect your internal factories? Because the blueprints for survival are already inside you. Sometimes they just need the right key to unlock them.
That's the science for today. We hope this recent study gave you some fresh perspectives.
Thank you for listening to the RevGenetics podcast.
RevGenetics.com for the best longevity supplements on Earth.